Here's a tour of our DIANNE'S ROSE. I'll start with the exterior and then we'll get inside to show you some of the detail. I hope you enjoy.
Hi guys, a few of you have asked for me to do a walk around and go through the interior of DIANNE'S ROSE, and I thought I'll take you through and we'll go around the outside, I'll explain a few things, and then we'll go around the inside. Oh, there's Crow in the background, tarped up. So we'll start at the back here, and a lot of people call this a flat bottom boat, and so what I want you to see is the V sections on either side of, yes, the 4-foot flat section. And that continues through. That is the profile of the boat all the way through. That's one of the reasons it's quite easy to build, is because basically it's the same section from 4 feet back of the bow. And then the bow curves up to meet the waves and whatnot. So it's actually a very nice shape. And what I have is just a simple 9.8. You can throw on more power if you want. And a new addition, because Crow, I do plan to do some electric boat motor with Crow. It's just that takes more time, so I'm not messing around, and it needs some motor. So I got this 4 horsepower Merc right there. And so since I had a bracket to put it on the back of Crow, I had a friend donate me another bracket to put on the back here. So that's great. I have an auxiliary motor. What I really got to do, and I'm curious about, is put them both on and see what that does for my speed. Might help me get up a fast current or something of the sort. And we have 2 gas boxes. One holds the spare cans, 2 20-liter cans, and also some alcohol for our cook stove. And the other one's the main tank, about 25 liters, and a couple of buoys and some rope and stuff. Oh, I didn't get the buoy string in when I put it. I filled up the tanks because we're heading out. So Dee's washing the boat. Let me see, anything else in here? Engine well, that's about it up here. Oh, the back deck, if I were to make a change on the boat, I might go 1 foot longer. Always bigger, right? That wasn't the intent. The intent was to stay small. So that's why it's only 17 feet long. And it draws only 6 inches of water when it's at rest. Now with a barge tends to roll the water in front, and so it settles down to 8 to 10 inches. So a lot of people ask, is wind a problem? Wind's really not a problem when you're underway. Where wind is a problem is when you're sitting still and trying to go real slow into a dock or something. You try to let the wind push you onto the dock rather than being pushed away. So that's the only time wind is really a factor to consider. But at any rate, so she draws just 6 inches, and the reason for the extra foot is I would put 6 inches more back here, because at the time I didn't do the gas boxes originally, and didn't realize how big gas cans are, so I basically ended up eating up a lot of space. But what I do have is I put a handle up on the top there, so when I am doing gas, I'm gripping on one hand for me, one hand for the boat, so to speak. And let's see, down the side here, we have a double axle trailer. I highly recommend for a boat like this that you get a double axle trailer. It'll bounce it around a lot less because the axles are pivoting. So the one tire hits a bump, drops, comes up, and it spreads the force and doesn't impact the boat so much. Now we have rather small tires, so I went with a D-class tire, which is good, rated for 1,000 pounds each. The overall load here is about 2,500 pounds with everything loaded. Once you have the boat, it's surprising what all stuff you put in it. But we make a habit when we're traveling far distances to put the boat, put most of the gear in the van. So now I have oar locks here. So I can row, and it's an emergency sort of auxiliary if the motor quits, need to get to shore, that kind of thing. or get to the other side of a river or whatever. And it's come in handy a few times. I also use it when fishing, just to get from one little spot to the other. And I have a shielding on here that we use when we go camping. Well, I use it on the highway. So tomorrow's trip is down the highway. And when traveling, I think you saw at the back, I have two main straps. Okay, I was mentioning the straps. There's the straps that hold it to the trailer in the stern. So what we do with this screen, we have it on. We tie it on when we're driving. It keeps the bugs. There's lots of bugs on the screen, so you can sort of see some bugs and whatnot. But if we're camping and staying overnight, we use it like a vestibule. So we just fold it out this way and hook it to the cleat here. And then we have a spot for, we can get more shelter actually. And we don't normally do it that way, we do it this way. So we have a spot for our shoes when we're coming in and out, and it works as a windbreak. We can flip it either way if we want. I should mention that these two windows are opening windows, this one and that one is sealed. It is with Lexan. I'll mention that you do have to get good caulking to hold to Lexan, and I've recently gotten into some stuff, and I use really good caulking from a window place to do this, and it's lasted about 3 years or what. The first season I used some cheap caulking from a hardware store, and it was literally peeling off in the first couple months. So do use good caulking. I was using a product on Crow, Sikaflex 252 I think it is, and that is amazing stuff, but I definitely tape off because once it holds, it's holding. So I would use that in the future. Now you'll notice scratches. Let's see, my buddy Tim had his paddle board sticking out from the top, and the way my mirror was set, I didn't see it, so I scraped there. But it's not his fault. That was my fault for not checking properly. But other scratches, it would happen anyways because I pushed through trees and so forth. So all these other scratches up here, they're from just being abusive and pushing between branches to try and get up a creek or whatever. I'm not Mr. Nice Guy with the boat. Now the hull in the bow, I mentioned the bow curves up, and so this is how the V section matches up, and there are 4 runners. So people ask if there's a keel. There are 4 1-inch keels with 1/4-inch aluminum cladding, and I used an old mast, cut up an old mast to do the aluminum cladding. And usually if we hit stuff, it's the runners that hit. So this one here, we crashed a rock last year, and it peeled back actually, but the ash worked out really good, and there was no damage really to the boat. I've been up on stumps several times, and you know, like I say, I warn people when I take them out, I usually am going to hit something. I was very fortunate. My buddy Ken across the way, he donated an old spotlight, so I'm thrilled that it works. I have a hard time getting the up and down to work, but I got the I can rotate it at least. So I just set it at an angle that I like, and then I can go in the cabin, and from the cabin I can remote control it. So that's pretty cool. On this side, you see I have a bicycle mirror that I've rigged, and it's handy because behind the driver's station, which is right there, there's the bathroom. So I can't see directly behind me. So a few times early on, I'd go to do a little turn, and we'd turn slow, so it wasn't tragic or anything, but I went to do a little turn, and all of a sudden a boat comes screaming by me. So I realized, yep, need a mirror. And the bicycle mirror is light. I've tried to make choices building the boat that keep things light. So it's light, and I had this little piece of hardware, and it seems to work. Once in a while I have to tighten the screw, but no big deal. And the running lights are mounted in the cabin here. Now, what else? We have a backlight, anchor light. And that rises up, and I have the Canadian flag on that. And on here you can see those are homemade pressure treated bunks that I did on the old trailer. And that's the angle of the bow. Here's the profile of the bow, you can see. So we run in a displacement mode with a 9.8. I would have loved a 9.9 4-stroke, would have been amazing, but twice the money that I paid for a 10-year-old 9.8, and it was 10 years old, but brand new in the box still. So I got that for a very good price, and it was in our budget because boat building, this wasn't horribly expensive for material. It was about 4,500 Canadian, but still, that's a lot of money. Now, spread over the couple years that it took me to build the boat, it was manageable. So we live on a budget. We're usually cash poor. We're not poor, but we always are wondering where cash is, right? We probably spend too much. You can give me an economics lesson sometime. It'd be helpful, probably. So we have a boarding ladder here. So when we go camping, I take this ladder with me here. So we bought a really good painter's ladder. And what's nice about this, when we put it up to the boat, roughly so, it's kind of locked in, and the platform up here is flush, almost flush with the deck. So this is really good. It's just like walking upstairs. You have a hand grip up there, and you can step on board.
Here we are on a camp trip.
So that's really handy. But when I'm not out with camping, then I just rely on this, and it folds down and drops. 4 steps is handy. And it's nice when we go swimming too, because we can come up out of the water. Even Deanne can do it, so she's happy about that. We actually have a great time when we go swimming. Now this is non-skid. I took, it's a little rough on the knees, I'll warn you about that, but I took sandblasting sand, and I varnished an area, and then threw this up in the air and let it float down into the wet varnish, and then blew off all the excess and revarnished the whole deck. I'll say originally I was going to fiberglass the deck and paint it. And then I liked the wood look, but I'd already sealed it with epoxy and had left all my pencil lines and so forth in the deck. So I could have done a bit better job. She's now on her 6th season, and she is due a good sand and another few coats of varnish, but it still looks good. So, and you know how I know it looks good? I'll just show you, because on my plywood, I mentioned I left all my marks. It says Doog. Well, actually good, right there. So that's how I know it looks good. So we're gonna go inside. Let's have a look at the roof. The roof is 3 sections. And what makes it, as much as the curve work looks complicated, I give templates for the curved roof. And the being it's 3 sections, a 2x6, I think a 36-inch piece of 2x6 can yield 2 frames. So it's easy enough to get 3 foot of clear cedar in 2x6, especially if you pick your lumber. And so you just put the template on and bandsaw out your frames a little large, and then sand them to size. So in 3 sections, it's quite manageable. And this center frame or beam, roof beam, that goes down the length is sort of like an I-beam. Underneath it is an I, and up above it the tongue and groove adds strength, which is glued on. So that's how the roof works. There are 2 hatches. I never got around to making these opening hatches, although I should. This is a skylight, a little messy, but it's a skylight hatch, and just weather strip, and it's just held down, roped down. because I was in a hurry to get in the water. And the back, we've gone to a metal stainless hatch. And the reason is usually in the spring and fall, we have a chimney comes out, and we have a wood stove set up in the boat. So we go out even when we have snow, because we can, and it's nice and toasty warm. So, the door, a little more about the door. Back on budget, this is just Lee Valley Tool has brass entry doors for porch screen doors, and this is just a cabinet lock, and I've just sort of siliconed and sealed the outside, and once in a while you have to replace it because it will rust and seize up, but it's just basically, it can be locked up, and it's just an affordable option. And this door can be locked from the interior so that you have your safety from the inside. And you see on the door all these tabs. This glass is removable, and we have screens that can be put in. And that, I put a door stop. These things hold an umbrella, so I can have a front porch umbrella when we're sitting out here and just have the door stopped open. And oftentimes I drive with the door wide open if the bugs aren't bad. And usually on the lakes, that's how it is. Or midday on the river. So we have a step in, and I'll show you the step more. And close the door, keep the bugs out. So Dee sprayed the whole boat down, and we have a system. I'll show you the system, and it's a bit of a mess. You know, I do tend to. It's Deanne that keeps me neat and tidy. So you notice the deck had no well of any sort. When I built the boat, some people have done little bow rider effects, drop down foredecks, and that's fine, I think, when the boat gets longer. But I like the idea of having the deck as full buoyancy. And also I should point out I have a handle to enter when you're entering. And others have also made a hatch that lifts up here, or you could make the hatch so that it slides back so you can open up the whole thing, similar to what a sailboat hatch would be, and that would be not a bad idea. And so I was saying about the well in the front. I keep my anchor, and there's lots of storage underneath the foredeck, although I would recommend just keeping the storage light in there, a few life jackets, although we have lots of life jackets under the seat here as well. So there's storage bins. Now, what makes the feature of this boat so cool is there are, get that open. There are sliding shelves, and that should have stayed out on the front deck, but anyway, Dee brought that in, that's okay. So these slide along. Oh, I don't want to slide that one actually, because I have the shelf set up right now. And that's to keep it there, because it can jiggle out. And there's a table. I'll show you a picture. I'll get a picture of the table right here.
We have comfortably dined 6 people.
And that acts as a storage shelf. So I have my tools. I have a chart. I use this area also as a chart table. Usually this goes outside when this one mat goes outside in front of the door. And this is our junk storage thing, but I keep charts in here as well. And when I'm motoring here along the sitting out here, I'll have my charts on here and then throw them down onto this shelf here, and then I can sort of look at the charts and stuff. So it doubles as a chart table. So this is the Helm, and we got really lucky. I was looking for a character steering wheel, and I've not in 6 years, and I've gone to boat shows, and they don't have anything near this quality. Now, I rigged the hub from an old motorboat, and there's actually finishing nails that kind of fill up the hub, and I had to tap out the center core. So there was a lot of work involved in jury rigging this. And we have the old cable steering. It's obsolete. And originally I found heavy-duty clothesline that works quite well. And most of the cable is frankly the regular duty clothesline. And because that corner, I also put bigger pulleys in the corner. So the first 2 seasons, after the second season, I had it break. So all of a sudden we had no steering. Now, not a big deal. I just fished out the line and I sat over here in the aisle and hand steered. So it was kind of funny. I just pulled to steer from in the aisle. So we still managed to get back without any problems or anything. But since I've gone to heavy duty and we haven't had any problem, and every once in a while it gets a little squeaky, I'll put some Vaseline on the cables and that works out well. So back to the steering wheel. We were very lucky to grab this. And this is a teak steering wheel. And the workmanship is amazing. It's so smooth. I'm just very blessed. It's funny how sometimes things come your way when you're least expecting it. So I'll show you how a window opens. Fairly easy, actually. Now, here it's just only complicated slightly that the motor has to be near full. And I have a couple tabs on the corner. I changed my system with the windows, the drainage, because you need to allow for drainage. I'll show you that in a sec, but here's the clip, and usually with two hands, it's easy, but with one hand, it's a little harder. And believe it or not, that does not fall. It's pretty secure up there. So the windows just fold up out of the way. There you go. And I've arranged the weather strip to be halfway on the frame, and you can see the crease there. And so Dee was just splashing away, forcing water, like spraying right into the corners. And there's the leakage. And there's a trough here. So, and the trough drains out a little hole that's hidden by the oar lock on the outside. And now I did one hole, and I realized when we were camping, the one hole plugged after going all the way down to Texas. The one hole plugged. And so I needed to, we were caught in a storm, and water was starting to come in. So I did a couple things to improve that. One, make a habit of cleaning your trough. But in the plans, I have 2 drain holes at the end, and I went through all sorts of complication of tapering down the trough. Well, that does you no good when your boat is perhaps sitting out a level, because I wasn't thinking on dry land, but on in the water, that's great. It all goes to the single hole. But on land, it doesn't. So it can go forward and maybe come in through there. And what I've done is, so now it's a simple trough just with a cove bit, and there's 2 drains at both ends, and so there's no problem. So, and the other thing I did is, because of that storm, and we had water coming in, the water was draining and landing on the shelf and then overflowing and wetting our bedding. So we had paper towel that we put down. And so we've learned from that, and I added this piece of damming that basically goes all the way from the back, all the way to the front. And so it can now drain out the front, and it just ends up in the footwell, which bothers nobody. We just can, sponge it up. So that rarely happens, but that one night we were a little bit on the miserable side because it was like sideways rain. I couldn't very well open the window to clear the drain hole because we would have got more rain in the boat. It was almost like tornado weather, and Dee, wasn't impressed. She had me do the hotel after that, but that worked out really good because I got to meet up with a bunch of boat designers who also were hightailed into the hotel, and with Chuck Lieberman, so Lean Weber. I'm dyslexic. Sorry, Chuck. But anyways, so we had a great time hooking up with those guys, and I really appreciated getting to know them a little bit better. Now, what else? Okay, so we have here our couches with backing cushions, and Dee makes it all comfortable. And we have, tried to make it look like a little bit like a living room. So it looks quite nice. Now, what we do when we sleep, there's two options. We can pull all these shelves forward, and there's another shelf behind me, and make this a big platform and drop the cushions, and this becomes a queen bed. Ideally, I'll show you a picture of that. But what we tend to do, because we're lazy, and we also found, it's great having the queen bed, but in truth, you end up, Dee's closer to the bathroom, so that works out well. But if I have to use the washroom, I thought, no problem, I'm by the front door, I'll go out and just take a pee outside. But instead, we found that, frankly, it's damp most of the time out there. Okay, so what we do to set up the bed is we just slide the one cushion down, it's plywood backed, and push the cushion down, and Dee has her sheets that she puts up. She likes the back cushion still. She steals my back cushions. I'm on the other side, and I keep my cushion out of there because I can't sleep with my arms tight. So I have a good oh gosh, what is that? I believe 32 inches or more. I forget the measurement, but it's quite wide. My elbow can squeeze into the section over there, which usually is full. I have another spare prop I put in there. But at any rate, and a shovel that we also have in there. But at any rate, one of those folding military ones. So you have a full-length bunk. Some people have lengthened the boat thinking that they need to have the full length to sleep. And that's great logic, but it's unnecessary. So as much as I would maybe go that one extra foot, I'm not disappointed with the 17 feet, because minimal means less weight. You're not having to carry, see, these earplugs for when I'm snoring. Great. Less length means less weight, means smaller tow vehicle. There's some huge advantages. Let's show you the storage. So lots of storage under here. And this is under the bench seats. And we have our blankets and sheets under here. And we just stuff it. A couple people have wanted to make drawers, and I highly kind of dissuade it, but if they want to, they can. But drawers waste space, add weight, add complication. This is a little bit of a pain in the behind to constantly lift. But for the added storage space we get, it's well worth it. So there are two large bins here for different purposes. I have tools and whatnot, or some other stuff, spare toilet paper, stuff like that in that one, and sheets in that one. Cooking supplies over by the kitchen, and it's very simple. You just flip this back up, slide it down, and all set. Put a bit of storage up in the... Well, let's talk about the ceiling. I was very lucky. A buddy of mine gave me beautiful pine, and there was a bit of a brown kind of stain, dark brown. So in the cracks, you see still the old stain. And I ran it through the planer and went through every board, making sure there's no nails, and I missed one that was in a bloody knot. So of all things, my planer ended up getting a nice little chunk out of it. And this, my dad just recently passed away, so this was a gift from him, let's see, 5 years ago, and you know, I really appreciated it. I noticed when I polished it up, there had been numbers or a name ground off of it, and you could just make it out. So this says, I don't know if you can see it, but it says DIANNE'S ROSE, and 2013, the day when she hit the water. And I was telling you about the ceiling hatch and how I tie it up. So that's it tied down. So I can take it off. It's not that hard. And the other thing we put up on the ceiling is I made these two 10-foot ash oars. They are amazing. I could shift this a little bit so that I get a bit different leverage. And we keep our fishing rods hung on the ceiling with some Velcro. And so the 10-foot oars, like I say, very handy. And I've used them quite a bit, actually. They are a safety thing as well as handy. If I'm going down a river with a current, I can just bring the oars out and let my friends fish off the back, and I'll just keep the boat facing forward. And we just got this new light, which is way bright, and it was super cheap. So I had other little lights, these guys, and they're okay, but a little darker. So, you know, there's 3 AAA batteries, and the concept was to go rechargeable. So this hatch isn't pretty, but it just has a Teflon plate on top, that pan sheet, a pie sheet or whatever, that just seals up the hole so that rain doesn't come in. And that's pretty much the ceiling. Anything else we do on the ceiling? Oh, I was telling you, I got distracted, de-knocked. So my buddy gave me all this tongue and groove panel from an old cottage. And so it was just the right amount to do the ceiling for the houseboat, and I was thrilled. They weren't quite long enough. They're seamed on the back here, and they were 2 different widths. So I used the skinnier boards over here, and I ran out of the wider boards for this side. But being was a seam again on the bulkhead for the bathroom, I ended up using up the skinnier boards in the bathroom. So the bathroom, I've also put one of these nice bright lights into the bathroom. We utilize a composting toilet. So we have compost, lots of storage back under here. I've sealed back there with a panel. There's even more space way back under there, but I have my cables coming out and stuff. So I've sealed back there, and I put in a false floor to level it off, because that actually is the V part, if you recall, when I showed you earlier. So it gets a little dusty. That's the only downside of the compost, but otherwise there are huge upsides. You're not dealing with any water. So part of the problem on a mini houseboat is that you have to haul and supply water for yourself. So we've got 2 bins. That's the main big bin, and then we have a little side pail. And then Dee said she hooked this up, but she didn't do it properly. You need to throw get the bungee cord around to hold I could, again, 2 hands are nice, to hold the pail in position. So basically it started, and I spray painted my pail brown, so there's some overspray in there. It's not overly dirty. Maybe could use a little wipe on the edge, but anyway. But what you see on the edge is compost from the last time it was dumped. So it works really good, doesn't smell. Like I say, it gets dusty. But we use it just like a regular toilet. Quite comfortable, easy to use. We don't separate anything. And other than flushing, we just add a layer of compost to keep things dry. And once you cover over whatever you've deposited, it works really well. So in here is this is the pole light that rises up. Sometimes it drips, but not often. And we have these beautiful port lights. I actually did pay good money for these. They were used and had paint all over them, but they were the right character piece for the boat. And we have hanging baskets with more stuff, and we use this also as a closet. So there's coat hooks and stuff, and even though you have your coats or whatever in here, it's it's still lots of room. But this is where I mentioned 6 more inches just would be a little bit more space where you might want it. You might go 4 and 2 extra inches for the bunk. I don't know. And these are the screens that I can put into the doors. And I never did do, I never did do screens for the side windows. I was going to, and I had one made, but I don't find we actually use it. It's enough that if we just put the screens in the doors, that's enough. For privacy, originally I grabbed both towels. Originally, I thought of a door, and I thought the door would just swing out of the way, no problem. But what we actually use, frankly, is a towel, and it's a large beach towel. Yes, Canada. Basically, the towel is so much better because let's argue you need a little extra space. It pushes out. When there is no bathroom sink, so we use this sink here, which has a lid for it. And so we'll use this to wash your hands. Well, I just reach over and use the towel to dry my hands. Makes sense. And you'll see there's no shower on this boat. But we do have a way. We've never needed to do it because we usually go boating when it's nice enough weather, or we tolerate the cold water to use biodegradable soap. We use camp soap. So I've had the odd person say, make a comment on a video where they see me washing up and say, don't be doing that in our lakes and stuff. But you know what? We're using camp soaps. And as a matter of ethics, even that maybe not be the best, but we use as very little as possible. So we don't go crazy. We just use a little dab and wash up in the lake and feel quite refreshed afterwards, actually. But I do have a system. I used to have, since we haven't used it, the shower mat's no longer in there. But in the bottom of that tray, that's an underbed tray that can roll a little bit out. We take that tray out, I empty the stuff, and I had somebody make a great suggestion that what I should have is other trays within that tray, so I can just lift the trays out to get the materials out, the stuff out, and you can just put it in this center section. And I have little where are they? I have little hooks in the corners here, and with 2 shower curtains under back here's one, and with 2 shower curtains. Where's the other one? Oh, here it is. There's the other one, and then over right there, I have another one. So we can enclose this whole area in this center section, can all be enclosed, and you can actually do a spritzer type shower. Put the curtains up. We have curtains for all the windows that are snapped into place. You see the snaps all around, so completely private in here. Quite thick material, so it's not like you get shadows or anything like that. Not overly so, anyway. So here is usually just a cloth or another towel or whatever. And underneath is a heck of a lot of storage, which I don't utilize very well at all. So there's just junk here. And our water system is very simple. We have a pump water bottle, and we have a large 6-gallon, 25-liter tote water thing, jug, that I use for gray water. And so I have not hooked up this beastie yet. And because I really don't use it, I probably won't. So that'll just stay there for looks. How about that? My problem with the whole get an electric pump and set that up is that people think they're at home and just let water run. So back to the water quickly. This has just a little bit of camp soap and mostly water. So we do a spritzer like this if we're washing our hands, and just spritzer our hands, rub it about, and then you just wipe them dry. And so there's the amount of water you use for your hands. So rarely do I need to haul water when we're away for even a couple weeks. I rarely have to haul water. So this is our cook stove. And really it could be just a single burner, but we have a double burner. We never use the back one. And it is awesome. I really, really like it. In fact, I like it so much I should show you how it works. So you find the little rattles. There are rattles in here. So this is one of the spots that rattle. The switch rattles back and forth. So we try to tone that down. Wow, great. I'm going to be able to light that, aren't I? Finally. So perhaps I'm low on alcohol, but shouldn't be. So that's our alcohol cook stove. And it works. I keep mentioning that. And we have a couple shelves. And these came out of another sailboat, a Martha Jane, actually. And so the top one came out of a Martha Jane. And they have these handy, they are actually removable dividers that you can set in different locations. But we fill it up with all sorts of stuff. And then we have all more stuff and cereal boxes, whatever we fill up. So I mentioned there was earlier, so I guess I can shut that off. So you can see just in there, just a little shelf slides over and douses it. There you go. Stick your little rubber thingy back in so it doesn't make noise, and you're set. Okay, I mentioned there was another shelf. This is the shelf that these shelves double as steps to come out of the boat. And there's another compartment in there that if I remove the plywood, you'd see. In an attempt to reduce noise a bit from the motor, because the motor can be a little noisy, we set it at about 3/4 throttle, and that way it's not too bad, and we get maximum, fuel efficiency and use. So this shelf is the shelf that we use as a step when going out the back. The back door is actually up a little bit higher, and there's a couple reasons for that. It's to create sort of a dam for if there's a gas leak or anything. Gas settles is heavier than air, I believe. How's that work? Yes, I believe it settles, so it won't come into the cabin. And plus the door is well sealed, so it shouldn't come in the cabin. So it's a little higher. I consider this back area like a utility hatch, so to speak. So you have to be a little agile to get out. But basically the shelf slides back out of the way, and basically it's a pantry shelf when we're not using it to get out. Anything else? A friend gave us, we get little gifts from time to time, so a friend gave us this, and it says sort of first class only, implying that we're all very first class, and it couldn't be further from the truth, but because it was a gift, we utilize it. Electrical. I have a very simple system. I have a plug like this at the back, which has a USB plug as well. And there's another one at the front near the helm. And I can plug, that's where I plug in my spotlight at the bow. And we have just a very simple triple system, 12-volt system, a single battery, 100 amp hour battery. So cabin lights, anchor lights, what do we have here? Running lights. And frankly, that's a spare. I could put something else on there. So very simple. We don't have any shore power. We just have a couple lights are by the entrance. That light is wired in for full-time use, so it can be turned on as you enter. Oh yes, this window. This window is really cool. So I saw this in a Duckworks or a wooden boat. I forget what. Small Craft Advisory magazine. By the way, Small Craft Advisory magazine, awesome. If you're not on Duckworks, magazine is an online. They've got a great Facebook page. I'd join if I were you. They have great ideas, lots of small boat ideas. And Wooden Boat magazine has been for years something that I subscribe to. Now I subscribe to their small boats. So this is what I call my rain window, because it can pour rain. There's a trough down at the bottom that drains. It can be pouring rain, and I have a screen that sets in there. So it basically, and to keep it from rattling, you just put these little, I used a handsaw handle shape to get the shape. So you put that there. So when the bugs are in, we have good ventilation, and it can be pouring rain, and we still have this window open. So the only thing I might add is a little tab to keep it in. Oh, hold on. See, you have a choice which way you put it. I put a little tab right there to keep these in. Sometimes when we're driving and it gets bouncy, this will shift over and the window will be open. So that's not so good. And there's, I believe, your interior tour. So, we have a little wainscoting. This is Brandon, a buddy of mine, gave me a call, and McDonald's was throwing out a big pine skid that a fryer showed up in. So the detail of the wainscot on the side of the hull, that's just throwaway pine. Now the floors, yes, let's discuss the floors. The floors are ash, 3/8 ash in epoxy. And what's beautiful about this is it was air dried ash, and you want it to be quite dry because you don't want shrinkage. It is part of the structure. So that with the 1/2-inch ply bottom, the ash is so strong, the 3/8, that I've bent a piece back on itself. And while it's split outward on the outside, the inside fibers were still connected. So air dried is amazing. Kiln dried, when they kiln dry things, it tends to get brittle. So I would highly recommend air dried if you can get it. Otherwise, it certainly would work. But being last summer, toward the end of the season, we ran this boat full speed right up on a shallow stump, and we're teeter-tottering in the middle of the boat, literally, with guests aboard, and we had to get pulled off because there was just no way we were getting off. And the damage to the boat was basically a scratch. It tells you. So the center aisle is unsupported by any framing, but it is pretty much a full inch thick by the time you count the fiberglass and everything. So this is my wood bin. Again, lots of storage under there. I have my firewood, little bits from the shop, and then lots of storage on the, that's where Dee keeps her curtains. And could put more stuff down there. Yes, you'd have to reach for it. If I were to go with a longer boat, and if I did a longer boat, I would do so I have a 22 foot in mind, and not for us to keep, but just as a design challenge. And I think a 22 foot would really suit a lot of people as kind of like a motor home, not a motor home, sorry, a camper trailer concept with all the amenities, and it would be your houseboat on the water. So it'd be a great way to retire and enjoy North America. But I would put another cross frame full width cross frame here and turn it into a bit of a step with a toolbox. So the step down wouldn't be as extreme because now this would be lowered. You could half that step onto another step, and it'd still keep enough that you could do the shelving and slide the shelving out underneath there. I think I'd come down maybe 8 inches, so about there. And so you can still keep your paper and stuff up there and still manage to crawl under if you wanted to go see something. Check your bulkheads, whatever, check for any damage, that kind of thing. You could slide yourself under. I'm not terribly skinny, so maybe you get the kids to do it, right? And that is your tour, folks. I hope you enjoyed. So that you see, I have 2 fire extinguishers. My philosophy is come in the front. I've got one handy. Be by the kitchen. I have another one handy. So, and being that we do have a wood stove sitting right there, the wood stove's going. Ian just lit that up because he's the outdoorsy type. So that's the tour. I hope that was informative. If you want to know any more about boat plans, visit roydesignthat.com. I'll be having Crow online coming soon. I'm not pushing myself overly. It's been one of those summers where I got too much to do. So when I get to it, I will. I have the hull drawn. So that
Crow's looking really sharp, and she's performing very well.
That was a fair bit of work. And there's always DIANNE'S Rose, and I also have a little 8-foot dinghy Thorn.
Thorn's pretty cool because she rows, sails, and motors with a little electric motor and the battery in the bunk.
It's a lot of fun. It's a car topper, and it's a fun little boat as well. So check out the website, roydesignthat.com, and take care, folks. I hope you have a good day. Ciao.